Hello and welcome to another Royal Reviewer channel episode. As always, this is a live stream, so I will be talking directly to you guys. I'll be trying to answer as many viewer questions and comments as I possibly can. Let's just adjust this camera so you can see me properly. I'm hoping that you all can, and I'm hoping that you've all had a really good past couple of days. I have been a little bit offline during that period, so we have quite a bit to catch up on. And just in case it has escaped your notice, I am wearing a replica of the Queen's Canadian maple leaf brooch in honour of Canada Day. It is Happy Canada Day to all Canadians and anybody who basically wants to wish any Canadian a very happy Canada Day. So I'm hoping if you are Canadian that you are having a really, really lovely day. I also have my Canadian maple leaf flag in the background as well. Canetta Danes says very pretty. Thank you so much. Miranda says thank you. You are more than welcome. In fact, first of all, let's get straight to the Queen. So I'm going to head on over to Twitter, where I'm going to be reading the message from the Queen on behalf of Canada Day. So the Queen has tweeted a very happy #Canada Day to all our Canadian followers. July the 1st, oh my goodness, it's July the 1st already, marks the National Day of Canada, with celebrations taking place across the country. And she shared a couple of photographs of herself when she has visited Canada on previous occasions. She says, on this day 10 years ago, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh attended Canada Day celebrations in Ottawa, celebrating the extraordinary warmth and enthusiasm of the people of Canada. The Queen also said at that point, at home, Canadians have many reasons for optimism, even in trying times. And most definitely, those words are very pertinent in today's climate. And I'm sure that those words, I mean, the Queen has said many words on previous Canadian visits, but I think those words have been specifically selected to kind of echo or to be applicable to the times in which we are living at the moment. At home, Canadians have many reasons for optimism, even in trying times. We are all going through trying times, so beautiful words picked from the royal family. And let me just... There is a link as well, actually, which I'm going to post in the live chat, and I will post it in the description box as well for those watching on Catch Up. And it's basically a link to the royal family website, which gives a history, a little bit of a history of the Queen and what the Queen's role and involvement in Canada. So I'll just go over to the live chat and post that link. Like I say, I will be updating that as well in the description. Lady Buckingham Dawn, hello, says, glad you have the Canadian flag up too. Well, of course, it is there. And of course, the Canadian maple leaf brooch, just in case you missed it. Janice says, all celebrations in Saskatchewan, I hope I've said that correctly, are cancelled this year. Yes, everything has gone virtual and no fireworks. It is such a shame. Things are being cancelled left, right and centre. All the things that we would typically enjoy, which we'll get to in a moment. There are some things which should have been happening this week, which are not. Canetta Danes has joined the royal household, which is basically being a channel member here on YouTube. So thank you so much. By the way, I should mention, I have revamped my Patreon. So I've posted a link to that in the community section. There is also a little Patreon link in the corner of the main page as well. But basically, I kind of realised that I now have 3 channels. I've got Royal Reviewer, Steps of Sussex and Elliot and Matt's British Life. And I thought a completely royal themed Patreon was not kind of inclusive of all of the different channels that I've got, because I've got people that watch me for different reasons. So I've basically turned the existing Patreon into Elliot YouTube, which encompasses all of my different channels that I have going. So if you think about it, Elliot YouTube Patreon is being like the umbrella, a bit like a foundation, like the umbrella charity. If you also would like to support on Patreon, head on over to there. It is different to YouTube channel members. Right, I am now going to move on again. I'm going to go back to the royal family Twitter, and we are going to be talking about a tweet which came out. Now, news came out round about 22 hours ago that President Trump had been on the phone to the Queen. So, on the back foot of that, I mean, to be honest, I don't necessarily know whether or not the royal family would have tweeted this and I think it came from the US government. I think they revealed that President Trump had spoken to the Queen. I don't know whether or not the royal family would have chosen to announce this if that leak hadn't come out. So, anyway, regardless, the royal family have tweeted, "Today, the Queen spoke to President Trump by telephone from Windsor Castle ahead of Independence Day in the United States on the 4th of July. The telephone call is the latest in a series Her Majesty has held with world leaders in recent months, including President Macron, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Prime Minister Scott Morrison." So yeah, the royal family have acknowledged that there was a phone call which took place between the Queen, Her Majesty, and Donald Trump, the President of the US. Like I say, would they have done that? They didn't announce any of the private conversations speaking to the other world leaders, although obviously any official engagement, that would have been, I think, classed as an official engagement and would be recorded in the court circular. Although we know that the telephone call did take place, we do not know how long they spoke for or necessarily exactly what they spoke about. It has actually been 6 months since the Queen last met President Trump at Buckingham Palace at a reception celebrating 70 years of NATO, and if you think back, I extensively covered that at the time. Of course, as I said previously, the Queen has spoken on the telephone to many different world leaders, and calls of this nature are made at the request of the government in what is known as soft diplomacy to help strengthen Britain's ties with allies. So the royal family is often used in the UK in terms of soft diplomacy. It basically means being nice and hosting people. It's one of the functions of what the monarchy and the Queen fulfills within the UK. As head of state, she uses soft diplomacy at the request of her government. So this call was not a personal private call, it was an official one. So what has been kind of leaked was that the president wished the Queen a happy birthday. Now we know that the Queen's birthday, her real birthday, is actually in April, but we know that Trooping the Colour, the Queen's unofficial, well, you know, it is her official birthday, but her real birthday in April, but her official second birthday, if you like, and I think maybe I think President Trump wished her a happy birthday for that occasion, marking 94 extraordinary years, said the White House. So it was the White House that actually came out with this. They also continue, the President also expressed his condolences for the British people who have lost their lives during the coronavirus pandemic. And they added, the President and the Queen discussed close cooperation of defeating the virus and reopening global economies. The President and the Queen also reaffirmed that the US and United Kingdom stand together in our special relationship and will emerge from this trying time stronger than ever before. And obviously, like I say, the royal family acknowledged and confirmed this telephone call on their royal account on Twitter. And like I say, obviously this conversation comes ahead of US Independence Day on the 4th of July. And if you didn't know what that is, if you're not from America or you just didn't know, it marks the date in 1776 when Americans broke away from being ruled by the British, who had been on the continent since the 16th century. So yeah, there we go. That call did indeed go ahead. I'm going to go and see what people are saying. Thank you, Lady Buckingham, who says, we will not turn political. I will start to delete comments if it gets too bad. Yes. I mean, I am just telling exactly what happened today. The Queen did indeed speak to President Trump. The White House confirmed it, and so did Buckingham Palace via Twitter. Lady Buckingham also says, I think everything is cancelled all across Canada. Lots of virtual stuff. Everyone across the world can be Canadian today. We can indeed. We can all celebrate and watch the celebrations. Right. I'm just kind of scooping down the comments to see what people are saying. Yes, no room for politics here. We will try and remain completely neutral. So I'm going to go back to Twitter and just... I will be updating some of the royal engagements, because I know that Prince Charles has actually been out today, but I want to go back to an earlier comment where someone said in the viewer comments that everything is being cancelled and things are being done virtually. Well, today... this week would have been another one of those occasions. One of those set-piece events in the Royal Diary, which always happen year after year after year, is Holyrood Week, or Royal Week, as it is known in Scotland. It's where the Queen goes up to Scotland and spends a week in the Palace of Holyrood House, and she hosts a garden party. She does an investiture, and she basically takes care of some official business up in Scotland. And on June the 29th, which would have been Monday, the royal family tweeted, today the ceremony of the keys would have taken place on the forecourt of the Palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh, marking the start of Holyrood Week. Sadly, this year's ceremony has had to be cancelled, and they shared some photographs of previous years with the ceremony of the keys. At the ceremony, the Queen is welcomed into the city of Edinburgh, Her Majesty's ancient and hereditary kingdom of Scotland, by the Lord Provost, who offers her the keys to the city. So that is what the ceremony of the keys is. It's when you are offered the ceremonial keys to the city. And if I just show you a photograph from that Twitter, you can see quite clearly the ceremonial keys of the city of Edinburgh being offered on a red cushion. So there we go. If you didn't know what they looked like, of course, not functional keys. They are indeed ceremonial keys. So they continue during Holyrood Week. The Queen and members of the royal family attend engagements throughout Scotland, hold an investiture, and host thousands of special guests at a garden party at the Palace of Holyrood House. So again, such an absolute shame that all of these things are just not taking part this year. We are missing out on so much, but it makes us appreciate what has gone before, and when these things start to return, I think we will have a new appreciation of all the things which we are missing. Right, just clicking through again, seeing all the comments. Right, I'm going to move on, I think, to, let me just check off, oh yes, the Queen attending Balmoral. So there has been some talk in the media over the last couple of days about the Queen's summer holiday, which usually takes place in Balmoral up in Scotland again. So normally after Holyrood Week, the Queen will return to London for about another week or so, and then she will leave to go to Scotland to Balmoral, where she will stay in a cottage on the estate until the main Balmoral castle is ready for her arrival, because when she's not there, it is open to the public. In fact, you can actually book to stay, not in the castle, but you can stay in some of their other accommodation. So it is actually open in a restricted kind of way to tourists. So people have been speculating on the Queen's summer holiday, her 3-month summer holiday. Will it go ahead? Will it not go ahead? And I've always kind of thought that, well, why can't it go ahead, really? I mean, technically, non-essential travel between Scotland and England is not advised, and I don't think the Queen will be wanting to be seen to be taking advantage of her position and going up to Scotland. However, In terms of outbreaks in the country of COVID, Windsor is actually quite a high outbreak area. In fact, Scotland doesn't have many cases at all over the past couple of weeks. So you could argue that it would actually be safer for the Queen to move to Balmoral ahead of when she would normally go. But also, like I say, I think she'll be weighing up the health risks. Of course, she is completely safe at Balmoral Castle. It is a fortified castle. She has her own little bubble. And a few details came out about the bubble as well. Apparently, the staff rotate on a 3-week rota. So they spend basically 2 weeks, I think, away from their families attending the Queen. Then they spend another week in isolation, and then they rotate. So a few details coming out about how the Queen's bubble is working. But yeah, I think the Queen will not want to be seen to be kind of, flouting rules or trying to use her position to do things that other people are not able to do. So when those restrictions are eased between Scotland and England, I think the Queen will be making that journey up to Balmoral. I see no reason why she shouldn't. She will be completely safe travelling there, and it is believed that when she does travel there, or if she travels there, that it will be by air, so probably by helicopter. I'm just kind of looking at an article. Yeah, the Queen normally goes the end of July and stays there until September. But yeah, current government guidelines advise against non-essential travel between England and Scotland. The article I'm reading says the Queen may be forced to skip the annual jaunt. I think that's a little bit too drastic. I think things will improve, but maybe not until August. So if things improve, the Queen may move up to Balmoral a little bit behind schedule, but I still think she'll get at least some respite. And of course, there is the option as well that she could remain at Balmoral longer. So if things have not improved in mainland England in September, she could potentially stay there up until Christmas nearly, and then maybe move to Sandringham at Christmas time, or indeed, for the first time in a very long time, she could have Christmas at Balmoral rather than Sandringham. So there are a few options, and yes, as I said before, a helicopter ride to and from the royal palaces would help to reduce risk. What do you think? Let me know. Do you think the Queen should travel from Windsor to Balmoral? What do you think? What do you think the Queen would be thinking? Nancy says, will you please talk about the beautiful brooch you're wearing? Well, I already mentioned it, but for those just dropping in, it is the Canadian maple leaf brooch, and it is a royal replica. So the Queen does actually own this one, and she has worn it many times when attending Canadian events or on Canadian tours. Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, had it on loan as well when she visited Canada. So I'm wearing that today because of Canada Day. And we also have the maple leaf flag as well in the background. Janice says, I read that she was going there August the 1st when travel restrictions are eased. That is a possibility, but they haven't happened yet. So if things worsen in England, if we have a second spike, or if Scotland has a second spike, that might be changed. So the 1st of August is provisional, but it's not a dead cert. Let's put it this way: we're not there yet. We aren't close enough to the time. So we have to kind of think. We have to kind of think with an abstract view. It's the potential for August the 1st, but hopefully, fingers crossed. Andrea says, how long of a flight helicopter? An hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, something of that nature by helicopter. Lady Buckingham says, think people would have an issue with her travelling if there are restrictions and there would be backlash. Better to stay put. Yeah, I think in general I would probably agree with you there. Right, let me just see if there's anything else I've missed for today. So we spoke about the ceremony of the keys. We spoke about Balmoral in August. We spoke about President Trump and the Queen calling. We've mentioned... Oh, Canada Day, yes. The Cambridges posted a Canada Day video message, which was shared on the Royal Family YouTube channel. So this is different to the Twitter version, because that's a short version. The full version is on the Royal Family YouTube channel, which I've linked to in the community page of my channel. So do go ahead and watch that. Basically, the Cambridges, William and Catherine, spoke to key workers and basically, reiterated all the things that they've already said to key workers here in the UK, what incredible work they are doing in keeping everything going. And like I say, just go and watch that message. It is a really, really good message. And it's important. Oh, by the way, it wasn't filmed today. It was actually filmed on June the 23rd, and it was always the intention to release it on Canada Day. So do go and check that out. Right, I'm just checking a few... Oh, also, it was the Armed Forces Day a few weeks ago. Not a few weeks ago, it was last week. So I'm just going to go and read the Queen's message from Armed Forces Day. So let me just scroll back in the Twitter until we come to it. Here we go. So the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh said, "The Duke of Edinburgh and I join many around the UK in celebrating Armed Forces Day and the efforts of our military, both at home and overseas. Today provides an opportunity for thanks and recognition of the dedication and risks faced by those serving our nation. We also have cause to thank veterans who continue to contribute to our way of life long after they leave the armed forces. Having had members of my family serve in each of the armed forces services, I know only too well of the pride service personnel take in their duty. As your Commander-in-Chief, I send my warmest, best wishes to you all, your families, and the entire Armed Forces community." So I just thought I would share that lovely message from last week. In fact, that was June the 27th. So, that happened then. Also, I have seen people mentioning that it is Diana, Princess of Wales's, what would have been her birthday on the 1st of July. So yes, it is the anniversary of Diana's birthday, which I'm sure William and Harry and Diana's family as well, the Spencers, will be spending, thinking about Diana. Usually, Harry and William make, every now and again, what's kind of known as a little bit of a pilgrimage to Althorpe, where they can go and visit the island where their mother is buried. I'm unsure the exact last time when they visited. I remember a while ago there was talk that maybe Harry had taken Meghan, but I definitely remember that there was talk around George having visited about 3 years ago. So I'm not sure how long it's been in more recent times since the boys or any of them last visited Diana's grave site. But with all the lockdowns and Harry being in America, I think that is probably off the cards for this year. Sandy says, "I love your brooch. It's a copy of the Canadian maple leaf." Indeed, it is. And yes, they did. The Canadians did gift the Queen with this brooch. So I'm going to go now. We've been speaking for 20-something minutes, and I'm hoping that we had a really, really good catch-up. I will also be making some videos on some of the engagements that have happened today and over the last couple of days as well. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big old thumbs up. Also, please consider being a channel member here on YouTube and also a patron on Patreon. Like I said earlier, I have changed my Patreon to Elliot YouTube to encompass all of my channels that I have here on YouTube. So thank you in advance if you already are a patron, or thank you in advance if you are considering being one. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media, and also do hit the bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. Also, please do remember to subscribe to the channel. So from me in Shropshire, mwah to you all, and goodbye.